What's up, everybody? Guy here from the basement, the newly built, air quotes, built basement studio. Uh, New baby upstairs. This is my first show since becoming a dad. A lot of you sent me very nice messages, which I appreciate, but I haven't done a show in like a week and a half, and it becomes this thing where, anybody who's ever taken time off of work, every day longer you don't do it, the harder it is to get back to it. Plus, you add to it the element, as most of you know who are parents, and you've told me about this, is you don't. I thought I'd be sitting down watching shows, baby in one arm. But I don't have a free arm. I need two arms, patting, bottling, pacifying, rapping, patting. Ooh, it's okay. Shh, 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 shushing. So it's been fun. Baby was born on 11/11. It's a boy, and we love him, and he's doing great. And I couldn't shout out. Let me be the trillionth person to say shout out to moms. My wife, crushing it right now. Which I know it's like not just a thing. It's eye opening, and I know many of you are like, yes, we all know this, and I think you know it. I know it. My mom, she's amazing, and then you see it like really from the jump in person every second. And it's just incredible. So we're having fun. Um, all the stuff in terms of sleeping. You know it. If you've done it, a lot of you have told me there's no way to prepare for it, and there's not. But we're having a great time. So it's good to be back here on this. After a 2-week absence or so, we were in the hospital for a few days. Everything was just as it was planned, and you sleep on that little pull-out couch, and then you get home, and you don't open the curtains aren't opening till like noon because you're not waking up because you're going to sleep at that's the part that's like I didn't know my curtains wouldn't be opening. It's like a summer. You know when you have like there's like three people who live together in college, and two of them go home for the holidays or for summer. One of them has to stay at the apartment alone, and the blinds don't open. And it's just that's the boxes, the delivery food boxes are piling up. That's what I feel like. The front curtains have not opened in 2 weeks. The side curtains have opened. The front curtains have not opened. So, but things are going well. Things are going well. And I wasn't sure would I do something after the show, after the game the other day, and it just important things. This is important, but that's important. So I appreciate y'all, and I don't have like some grand welcome to fatherhood statement. I don't have any grand statements to make, other than it's fun and thank you. Because I've felt a lot of love and support comments or emails or DMs, whatever, from people with advice, a lot of good advice. So we're working at it. So, the other thing is like, where do you jump in when you step out for a minute during the season or for a week and a half during the season? Like, where do I jump back in? On what topics do I jump back in? So this isn't going to be a long one, but I just wanted to fire through some stuff, including, the Niners kicker situation. An interesting week to have another injury, of course, to the league's best kicker, Eddie Pinheiro. And you go to Matt Gay, and you play Carolina on Monday night. And the good news is that if you need your kicker against Carolina, I don't know if it's good news, but you're losing that game. You don't need your kicker to beat Carolina. You need your kicker to lose to Carolina close. What I mean is Carolina's 6-5. Their last 4 wins are by an average of 3.8 points. Right? They're winning games by a field goal, but they're losing. They've had 5 losses by an average of 18 points. Now they did win one game by 30. That was their first win, week 3 against Atlanta. They did lose to New Orleans a couple weeks ago by 10. There's no great glory in keeping it close against New Orleans. So I know there's a lot of talk about, well, you couldn't sack Jacoby Brissett. So how are you going to get after Bryce Young? I'm sorry, whatever. Rico Dowdle, hard to tackle. I know. This is going to sound like I'm not giving Carolina enough credit, and maybe I'm not. But I've watched them. I've talked about I'm largely unimpressed. But they're 6-5. They are 6-5. So I think you have to be impressed with them, like based on what their standard is. But Bryce Young is not like he's not a true franchise quarterback. It's just not quite happening. right? They used one of the picks they got on McCaffrey to move up, and they got him. And like I like the guy a lot. Actually, I'm rooting for him, but it's not headed in the direction of like this is our dude. So now the Niners do tend to need a field goal kicker this year. So I'm not dismissing it. And I'm not I know I'm coming in hot like this is going to be a no contest on Monday. The reality is, and I was reading Kawakami, he's like, hey, you beat Carolina, you're 8-4, you beat Cleveland, you're 9-4, you beat Tennessee, you're 10-4, and now you're basically a wild card lock, which is true. So as confident as I sound, or as dismissive maybe as I am of Carolina, the reality is that this team, you can't assume anything 3 weeks out. And this is coming from the guy I've been talking about what a math problem it is the whole time. It's just a math problem. It's a math problem. It's a math problem. Look at their schedule. Look at their schedule. Look at their schedule. So I'm on board with Kawakami's. You read out in the future. It makes sense, and I'm on board with it. I assume nothing though, based on all the things that this team has dealt with. But you get Purdy back, and he plays well, and you got Pearsall back, and you got Kittle back. And by the way, Jennings is like doing the thing that you wanted Brandon Aiyuk to do, which is come back after dealing with what feels like some version of a falling out and just getting it back to normal again, feeling normal again. You can reconcile. One of the reasons you want to see Aiyuk, I think, we haven't talked about this a ton, although I was thinking about it watching the game the other day and then reading Kawakami. There's a lot of reasons you want to see Aiyuk back. One, like reason 10 down the list, is what if, for all of the assumptions that Jennings is just gone for sure, moving on, not going to spend the money on him, what if you did want to still trade Aiyuk in the offseason and keep Jennings at a much lower rate? You kind of want to see, like, is Aiyuk going to come back? And it's not even about being just as explosive as he was or just as dynamic as he was before he got hurt, because I think there's a real possibility that even if he comes back, we don't know, he's still week to week on that practice window, he's not, that he could look better in 2026 than he looks at the back end of 2025. It's sometimes just the way it is. I know it's a different injury, but I think back several years to the way Michael Crabtree looked when he came back from his Achilles. He came back in the second half of a year, and then the next year really looked better. And maybe that would happen with Aiyuk too. But at minimum, you want to see a guy that you feel like has scrubbed away all kind of the bad vibes that went on from the contract and then not producing before the injury. And that maybe you just feel like, you're letting Jennings go, who is your most consistent producer. I love Ricky Pearsall. He was one of the best receivers in the league before he got hurt this year. But I want him to stay healthy for the last month and a half here, and then hopefully into the postseason. Like, you still got to prove that. So, if Aiyuk comes back at some point, it doesn't look great, and Pearsall's in and out of the lineup again, you're letting Jennings walk, who is definitely your most consistent receiver producer, positional receiver. That it's not nothing. So, one of the things to watch here down the stretch. Great to see Brock look good. I love this team on Monday Night Football. Always worth watching, and I'll be locked in for them. By the way, for those of you who are listening to this, you can't see the YouTube. For those of you watching, I started with Dad. I didn't want to then also start with where I am, but I am not in the normal quarter, the studio in the main quarters, as we like to say. I'm in the basement. Thankful to have a basement where I could set up the desk and a different desk and go to work. For those of you who, excuse me, are familiar with, especially like the eastern part of Oakland where you get basements. Something I did not know about the Bay Area growing up, because I didn't have one living in Davis, which is not in the Bay Area. It's like an hour away. But I didn't realize I lived in the Midwest before. My dad was in the Air Force when I was much younger. Like basement, everyone had a basement. Those of you, like everyone's got I didn't know people in the Bay Area we got basements. We do have for those of you who aren't out here in the Bay Area, we do have basements. So grateful for this basement. I've got a big, you can't see it in the shop, but I've got a big, it was here when we got the house, big gun gun safe next to me. No guns in it. I've got a couple baseball bats, a 6-month-old 6-pack of Corona, and a bunch of sparkling water, and it holds drinks, and now a bunch of distilled water. One other thing that now that, Brock's looking good, I read an article today, I don't know if you saw this in The Athletic, it's good. It was Brian Hoyer, and he was talking about the Shedeur Sanders experience, and more specifically, he was talking about what it's like to be a backup quarterback. And I was scanning, and I started reading the comments, and somebody in the comments made a comment about backup quarterback, and they quoted the show The Office, where the character Pam says to Dwight, like, "Dwight, what happens if you die?" In terms like, "What happens to us if you die?" And he said, "Oh, don't worry. If I die, you've been dead for weeks." And that's normally how it is with I thought it was a great comment because it's normally how it is with a starting quarterback. Like, if I die, this whole team's the whole thing's toast. Like, it's been over. And that's what's been unique about the 49ers this year is that's not the case with Mac Jones. And Mac was asked about it a few weeks ago, like, dude, why exactly did you sign a 2-year contract? You saw what happened with Darnold. You come here, you resurrect it. You don't need 2 years. You do 1 year and then you go get a payday somewhere else. But he signed a 2-year and he just said, oh, that's what was presented to me. So Kawakami wrote that he thinks that the trade market for Mac Jones would be you trade him for a third, maybe, with play incentives that could make it a second round pick, which I was not in favor of trading him. But if you could pull that off, I'd be a big, 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 big fan of that. And I wasn't really all that interested in trading him a couple weeks ago, but you'd love to see Brock play out. Part of it for me is the confidence that Brock is going to play out this season healthy. You need him to play out the season healthy, and then you feel better about this going to the offseason. But he looked really good. You play the Cardinals at the right time. Another benefit of this schedule. You play the Cardinals at the right time. But there's a lot of teams. There's no bad time to play Tennessee. There's no bad time to play most of the teams on the schedule. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The one I love is not playing Seattle until the end of the year. Seasons are long. There are ebbs and flows. The Rams look great when you play them the other day. They've been playing well. Seattle, I mentioned this on the last show. I think Richard Sherman said they look like the best team in the league. There are ebbs and flows, and they may not look that way at the end of the season, week 18. So I think that is the game I love where it's placed. All right, that's it for this one. I'll be back here on Monday night, presumably. That's the plan. Used to be I could just say that's the plan. I love he's been on the show, PJ Fleck, Minnesota football coach. He's got a lot of great sayings that I love. Row the boat. I'm a believer in PJ, and he's got one he says all the time. And we had a meeting with him a few weeks ago when I was doing one of their games, and he found out I was going to have a child, and he said, "Remember," and he's famous for saying this one. I love it. Control is for amateurs. Control is for amateurs. So the plan is that I'll be back on Monday night, but control is for amateurs. All right, y'all. Appreciate you. It's been a while. Good to be back on the horse, and I'll talk to you soon. Later.